Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Jodo Cast, your Star Wars Gaming Podcast. This is episode 123, otherwise known as 123. My name is Evan Lewis. I am, of course, joined by the Master of Disaster, Leo Andri.
Look good, I was hoping that wasn't going to be me.
No. I guess, I mean, you're probably not wrong.
The
things I do turn out disastrous. Sometimes it happens.
The Heartbreak Kid, Big Daddy Cool. Is that not you? Are those not appropriate acronyms? The Excellence of Execution. You cannot not.
Did you
want
ever
the
go by?
Execution.
I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
Do you ever tell people your name is short for Leonidas?
No.
His name literally means Lion Man.
Because, like, I've
got
got
a
shit.
Mumford and Sons song?
Kind of like my whole life, where people are like, is your name short for anything? No, it's just Leo. Okay, well, I'm going to call you, Leonard anyway. Or I'm going to call you. Yeah, like, I used to work with somebody who called me Leonidas all the time for a while, and it was annoying.
Was that Joe?
Did you kick him into a well at the end of your time working with him?
This is Fargo!
I think it was a lady.
JC Penney!
And I think she was also my manager.
Oh. And Joe.
Would you rather be a Leonard or a Leopold? If you had to pick.
Of course.
Historically, there's some pretty Leopolds out there.
Yeah,
sure are.
But so was Bugs Bunny at one point.
She or a Leopold?
A Leopold. Leopold. Leopold.
You must have missed that episode.
Apparently. I thought everybody knew that one.
But I've always hated the name Leonard, though.
Well, especially nowadays. Because everyone's going to say, like, oh, like Big Bang Theory. You must really love Big Bang Theory. Your name's Leonard.
Didn't cross my mind because...
Leonard, I don't even
Leo,
know if
congrats
there's a person
to
named
you
Leonard
and me
on Big
for...
Bang Theory.
Congrats to us for not making that connection.
How about Leonardo from the Ninja Turtles?
Leonardo.
All right.
The only person I know from Big Bang Theory is that Sheldon. There we go.
Yeah, no. Yeah. His wasn't it his roommate is Leonard?
I don't know.
The less I know about that show, the happier I am.
There we go. That's the lesson, ladies and gentlemen. Ignorance is bliss. Mr. Regan taught us that. And as I was saying before I was not interrupted, more like
derailed.
Joe, the Hitman, the Macho Man, the Total Package, the... Help me out. The Ultimate Warrior.
The $1 million... No, let's leave out the Ultimate Warrior.
Okay, the $1 Million Man, Joe Letofsky.
Wrestling references are great on me because I didn't watch that growing up.
Man, he must have had a shit childhood.
Like, during my childhood, it was fine, and then, like, in retrospect, whenever I'm like, what did I even do? Like, played with lightsabers outside, played army in the woods.
Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Nothing wrong with that at all. I will just say that. Okay, it's us, your friendly neighborhood hooligans, and we are finally back. I am finally back from 2 months worth of craziness, and I'm getting shows out the door, and we're going to talk about current events instead of last month's events, which is what you'll be hearing from us, unless you're a patron, in which case you do hear our current event thoughts, because over at patreon.com/thejodocast, you can either partake in our sumptuous banquet of gregariousness live and give us your input as we record you
Just
for
sitting
the
there reading a
posterity.
thesaurus or something.
Me?
Yeah, man, that's a lot of $10.
Well, we
there.
don't want dummies getting on our
I mean-
Patreon. We only want well-read people.
I mean, you two are like the colored commentators. I'm the one that's like, you know, this is a real slobber knocker tonight, ladies and gentlemen. You're like, yeah, he's really coming in here. Oh, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, if you are like, don't hate us enough that you went to patreon.com and joined at as low as $2, you get, among other things, and we are actually rolling out new Patreon exclusive content, like the new patron exclusive show Babylon, where we talk about whatever. That's what I called it. Good, deal with it. We've done Babylon 1. Once we get to 5, then it'll be a big deal. But what Evan was trying to say is you can see the video of us talking right now, unedited, if you're a patron. Otherwise, you can be happy with the nicely edited audio-only version. But I will say, sometimes the stuff at the start and end of these videos is things that I feel like the people who watch these videos, they're getting something extra. Just special things for people who, for whatever reason, like listening to us. But moving on. They know about the Patreon.
Thank you, Joe. Now you have to answer the question, what have you been playing?
What have I been playing? I've actually been playing quite a lot of things. I've been working on a video that's a new special project that I've been working on. It'll probably have been released by the time you hear this.
Probably.
In which case it is the top 5 video games for Gonk Droid lovers. I thought I would dip into the whole making YouTube videos that are list type things, because that's what get millions of views. And I wanted to do something close to my heart, which is Gonk Droids. So I compiled a list of the top 5 games for Gonk Droid lovers, in my opinion. And so
this video isn't immediately our number 1 viewed video.
Then I'll have to try again.
You're a failure.
Well, to be fair, ever since we stopped putting out Legion content, the views have not been rolling in. Even though I personally love all the content we've been putting out. Apparently the things I want to make aren't the things that people want to watch. So I have been playing a lot of games, and I guess I might give away some of the items on the list. But I've been playing Battlefront 2015, Battlefront 2017, Battlefront 2005... Jedi Fallen Order. I played The Force Unleashed. I think I played a little bit of Episode 1 Racer. I played some Squadrons. Played Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga. I played some Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens. What else have I been playing?
I did not hear you say Shadows of the Empire.
I have not played Shadows of the Empire.
I think
ever
you should.
In my life.
You should.
I've been planning. I think it's something that you two could join me on that journey. That's one of the things. I'm like, oh, I should wait.
Yourself.
Well, yeah, but if I played alone, then I can't record it. I'm not good at talking at video games by myself.
That's fair. It's an acquired skill.
Why do I feel like I played a board game? I don't think so. Not a Star Wars board game. I think that's probably about it. There's probably a few other Star Wars games that I tried out on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
We played like half a second of more Yoda stories last week, I think.
Yeah, how's that been going for y'alls?
Well, I mean, we didn't really...
Well, we played half a second of it, because then we recorded Babylon instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Leonidas, you're up.
Other than that, like half a second of Yoda stories, I don't think I've really done any Star Wars gaming. I've been doing a tiny bit of painting. I painted some B1s during a work conference today.
That's usually when I get most of my painting done, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I had 2 company meetings this week, and I got several Marines finished, Space Marines finished up, and some Stormcast Eternals. So, yep.
I played a little bit of BB-8 on a string on a stick. That's Tron's favorite game. We have a little cat toy that's BB-8 on a string. He loves it.
That's cute.
Goes nuts for it.
Okay, I guess it's on to me.
Yeah. What have you played? Star Wars games only.
Oh, Fallen Order.
Oh, how's that going?
Yeah. It's been a while since I played it, because I moved. And, I'm still on, like, I feel like I'm super early on. I just got the pull force power. I'm on...
That's pretty far.
Is it?
Is that... Well,
I think
it's
you get on...
push first, right?
Yeah, you get push.
Yeah, pull. You learn to pull when you're falling, and you reach out to get your lightsaber as it's also falling.
Oh, yeah.
That's on, like, Zepho Part 2, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds
I'd say
right.
you're at least halfway through the game.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it feels super early yet. Like if I was playing KOTOR, I would feel like I was like not even halfway through collecting star maps.
Because KOTOR is like long.
Yeah.
Most games don't have that many hours.
Fallen Order is Fallen Order is a lot longer than I was expecting it to be. It's not a short game. It's just shorter than all the super deep RPGs you tend to play, I guess.
That's fair. I guess if I compared it to Force Unleashed or Uncharted, I don't know. The Uncharted 4, I finished it not that long ago.
It's pretty long.
Yeah, that's a long one. Like they all feel super long, not because they're bad, just because they really stretch them out.
I think I got through Uncharted 1 pretty fast.
We're not talking about Uncharted 1, we're talking about Uncharted 4.
Well, he said they're all
I did.
long.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Evan, what are you talking about?
You never played Uncharted 2? I'm sure we've been over this.
I played through the train section at the beginning of the game.
Okay.
So like the first level of the game. That's all the further I've ever gotten.
I feel like if...
I intend on playing them someday. I've got like the Uncharted collection for the PS3.
Okay,
that's
good.
pretty good. That's what I played. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Although, if you had to pick one, obviously pick 4 and like read a brief synopsis, because that's of the previous 3.
Okay.
Play them all in order or don't play them.
So
That's the rules.
I've been playing Fallen Order, and I've been enjoying it. But Pokemon did just drop a new expansion. Been playing that. And
Star Wars Pokemon?
Yes, yeah. Star Wars Pokemon, and I have to get my daily Star Wars Animal Crossing stuff done too. And I have to paint my Star Wars Space Marines.
Oh yeah, Galactic Marines.
Yeah, and my Star Wars Rock Gut Trolls. Trogoths, sorry, not trolls.
This is not a very good circumvention of the rules, Evan.
No, I don't.
You
I don't
set
think
the standard.
We're
set the standard.
Nobody.
The standard has always been, what Star Wars games have you been playing? I play a lot of games that aren't Star Wars. We don't need to talk about it.
I have asked you what non-Star Wars games you've been playing because you play tons of Apex and other.
Yeah, I play a lot of non-Star Wars. That's not
Overwatch.
why the people are here.
Yeah,
that's not why the people are here.
That I was playing Overwatch,
and I want you to, because this is about sharing with our friends what we've been up to, not just hey, Star Wars. I'll give you some love.
That's the whole point of the show, is we love on Star Wars.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if we want to talk about everything, this might end up being a new patron spin-off show, because
you've got 60
I
seconds.
just finished Titanfall 2, and I loved the campaign in Titanfall 2. Can't believe it took me 4 years to get to it. I've played a lot of Apex. I play in Gears of War. There's a cool Halloween mode where everyone's got pumpkins on their heads and they explode. And I've been playing some. What else did I play? I played some I played the Tell Me Why, where it's a story game where you walk around and you're like, why did this stuff happen? And I'll look at things with my twin powers. And
Oh, how is that one?
I thought it was good.
It looks interesting.
If you are a transphobe, you'll hate it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that much was obvious from the trailer.
I thought it was good. It wasn't
cool
like...
to me.
It was fine.
J.K. Rowling, don't play it.
She downloaded it just so she could delete it.
Let's see.
I hated this. Okay,
What
and
have I
Joe's
done that's not Star
done.
Wars?
60 seconds, go.
Yeah, I like you said, I've been playing Overwatch.
Yep.
I've been playing WoW. I've been playing tons of Bloodborne again.
Okay.
The other night, I finally beat Ludwig, who'd been giving me a ton of trouble. And then in the same night, I also managed to, not only did I beat Ludwig, but I beat the Living Failures, and then Maria right after that. Just boom, boom, boom. Beat Maria on my first try. I was super pumped, and then I went past that to the fishing hamlet.
Yes.
And those shark guys have just been destroying me, and it's depressing.
Wait. You meant Maria and the sharks? Where were the jets?
I also started on Company of Heroes 2.
That was really good. You cannot beat a West Side Story reference.
I've never seen a West Side Story.
Okay, well, time's up.
Living in America.
Okay, moving on. That's what we've been playing. Now then, let's get to our topic du jour. Which is finally, if Leo can fill in the blanks for us, going to be the topic of why in the hell do we hold, or when I say we, I mean collectively recognize Star Wars Customizable Card Game by Decipher, established 1995 as the apex of Star Wars card games. Why on earth do we keep bringing this thing up?
Not just Star Wars card games, apex of Star Wars tabletop games, period, I think.
So like
apex of any tabletop games.
Somebody walks in your house and he says, I've got enough gasoline to cover all of your Star Wars games except one game. The tank will run out. Which game do I spare? You pick CCG?
This is like a scene from Saw.
I'm sorry, start over. I didn't understand the question.
All of your games will burn except one. You have to save one.
Okay.
Your Star Wars tabletop games.
Well, yeah, it's the CCG is the only one.
I was just trying to make it make more sense where he had only a finite amount of gas.
Yeah.
All right, so before we get to why it holds this apparent sacred place of honor, give us the quick background, because even though we talk about it frequently, we bring it up frequently, I should say. We don't necessarily talk about it, we bring it up. It's kind of a running joke.
I feel like it's common Jodo lore that it is the best game.
Yeah, and like if you get on Twitter, you will find people who agree, who are like, yes, this is a long-lost Holy Grail, as if we had the Holy Grail and then lost it. Not like we never had it, but we did have it and then lost the license to the Holy Grail. So give us a quick background on that if you
The cup
could.
manufacturer, Jesus pulled his licensing rights. He's like, you know what, guys? I'm going to the different chalice manufacturer.
We're going to give the license to the Holy Grail to Wizards of the Coast now, because, you know, Richard Garfield and all that.
They can mass produce these chalices.
In multiple languages. So, give us a quick rundown, if you could please, on what the heck is this?
Tell me. Should I play the role of the ignorant child who was born too late to enjoy the game?
That's, you know what, in the past circumstances when we've done this, that has been the best way for you to do it.
As long as you don't talk
What's the
like a child.
CCG we owe? What is wheel shuffle wheel pod?
Well,
so I guess I don't know where to start. I guess for me, maybe part of it is also it was the first card game for me.
well,
ever.
and I okay, I'm going to interrupt, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
I apologize. This is your story, but I got to set the scene for everyone because 1993. What did we have for Star Wars? We hadn't seen a movie in 10 years. So what did we have?
Any movie, not just Star Wars movie.
Yeah. That's me slapping Joe through the internet.
Ow.
Return of the Jedi was 1983. We didn't have any new movies. The best cartoons we had were droids and Ewoks and whatever. We had the Ewok movies. We had the Marvel comics, which were okay. And then finally we had Heir to the Empire, I think, right? 93? Heir to the Empire?
Heir to the Empire is
about right.
91.
91, 93, early
yeah,
90s,
maybe.
in any event.
I know that because I'm like,
Well,
a
let's
couple
see.
months
I bought
older
it.
than
I
Heir to the
bought it
Empire?
when I was in 4th grade. So in 4th grade, I would have been what, about
92.
10? So that would have been like 92-ish.
Yes, 91,
93-ish.
92.
And it was already in paperback by then, so it must have been out for like at least a year or so, probably.
So that's where we're starting in approximately 91 95. And in that time frame, Magic the Gathering has just come out and created a whole new genre of game of hobby game that appeals to the niche crowd. So set your mind back a few decades to that time frame. Star Trek is big. Star Wars is pretty low. Magic the Gathering has just been created. And X-Men the Animated Series is the best thing on TV. All right. Take it away.
So I guess for me, the funny thing is though, is growing up in a pretty small town and still being fairly young at the time, like the whole like Magic the Gathering craze hadn't really come to our neck of the woods just yet. So really the Star Wars collectible game was my first exposure to any type of CCG sort of game. And I just found it at Walmart one day and was all like, what is this? And I was like, you just look at the box and you're like, wow, you get these cards. Because, I mean, I was a kid and I was all into like collecting cards. Like I didn't even really like baseball, but I bought baseball cards and collected them. I don't even know why I did it. It was just sort of a thing that every kid did at that age.
It's what we did.
Then.
I had tons of NBA cards.
Yeah. And like I had Ninja Turtles cards. I mean, at least there I liked Ninja Turtles. I had X-Men cards. Like all those like those they used to come out with some badass like trading cards for X-Men back in the day. So I guess I didn't even really realize it was a game necessarily maybe when I bought it when I was a kid or talked my parents into buying it for me. But yeah, it was just me and another friend then. It was Heisey, sat down and we started learning how to play this once we got it. And
I forgot all of your guys' childhood friends were like the hockey players from Letterkenny, where they'll have like the E at the end of their name.
Yeah.
Heisey, Jonesy, Riley, Shorzy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was just I think I was just right at that age where I was really primed for this game. You know?
I have a question, and maybe it'll get addressed later. How much of the magnificence of this game and the place it holds in the Jodo canon is due to your nostalgia for it and its actual merits as a game?
That's a great question.
Okay, there's a lot of nostalgia for the game, but there's no denying that it was, in fact, a very good game. It was the only game that so during this era, Magic the Gathering was the big dog. It was basically the first, and it was the most popular card game. And there was a lot of people trying to cash in on that Magic the Gathering money, and there was just card games coming out left and right all the time. And most card games came and went in a blink. There was tons that they put out one set and immediately died. And there was so many games that it was hard to find an audience. Star Wars was the only game that ever came close to Magic. I could be wrong. I believe that for one very brief period, it did actually outsell Magic. I could be wrong on that.
I think so. Magic is, it is today to CCGs the way that World of Warcraft is to MMOs. And, it's the only one that'll be remembered except for things like Pokemon. But there were certainly a number of ups and downs for it, and I'm sure the folks at Decipher, the company that made Star Wars and Star Trek and Lord of the Rings movies licenses and Austin Powers, for some reason, took advantage of those few lulls in Magic the Gathering.
But yeah, it was other than Magic, it was the best-selling card game out there. And it's still being played today by a not insubstantial community across the world. They still have tournaments. They've got a players committee that is continuing to update the rules and put out small virtual sets of new cards and things like that. So although my love and nostalgia for the game is very strong, I don't think it's rooted in just that. Even just having not played it for several years, and then when me and Evan went to Gen Con a couple of years ago, getting to sit down and play with people, you were still able to see, no, this game still is really good and really fun.
Yeah.
And I think as we're getting into it, the gameplay itself is just one of the reasons. It's an asymmetrical, well, not asymmetrical. I guess both players kind of have the same playing field, but there's one player is the light side and one player is the dark side. So you're not going to have the same cards or anything like that. Whereas a game like Magic, you could end up playing an opponent who built his deck exactly the same as yours. Mm-hmm. Kind of like what happened at the Worlds this year for them. It's pretty boring.
All right, so that was sort of the origin, the setting, the time, the place, and sort of the environment when it came out. Just speaking for myself, when Star Wars came out, me and my friends were already looking forward to it, because when I moved to my new hometown in 1995, summer 95, the first friends that I made immediately gave me all their extra Star Trek CCG cards. So that came first, and then came Star Wars, and we knew it was coming.
Sounds like when you land in Hawaii and they give you the lei, you get there and they just here's our extra cards.
Yeah, that's what it was, because with CCGs you can only have so many copies of Ensign What's-His-Face on the Enterprise.
That's why I stopped playing Destiny.
Well, boy howdy, that is certainly...
Everybody needs a dozen Rebel pilots and accompanying dice to store somewhere.
Yeah. So, we can talk about CCGs and their pitfalls all day long. But in this case, Star Wars CCG comes out fall of 1995, and
winter.
Okay,
Winter.
I believe it was actually December 95 when it came out.
I will believe you, because I think you cared far more about this than even I did at the time, because for me, for whatever reason, Star Trek was the one that I loved the most. But this is not about me and Star Trek, which it could be a whole nother show. Continue. Tell us about what sort of game is this? Is it a two characters punching each other in the face kind of game?
No, I think it's a more broad game that, I mean, that's
we call them women now.
Yes, that the LCG kind of tried to capture and failed.
No.
But, I mean, it kind of encompasses everything. You are fighting battles. Again, like I said, it's light side versus dark side. So you're fighting battles on ground locations. You're fighting battles up in space. And it's all... I don't know, it just feels really cool because it's all these iconic characters, if you manage to pull them. But even then, it's just marching around with a big old squad of stormtroopers or something on Tatooine always felt kind of cool. And all these iconic characters, iconic ships, doing battle. And I don't know, I think the game just did a really good job of capturing the struggle between the light and dark to sort of control, I don't know, if you want to say control the galaxy or control whatever it is you're fighting over, because I mean that's actually
the fate of the galaxy.
Yes, because that's sort of a big theme in the game is getting and controlling these different locations, and keeping your opponent, the opposing side of the force, from getting those from you. I don't know, I guess that to me feels like more dynamic than just like the LCG or Destiny, where it just sort of felt like you were like in Destiny, it's you just got a couple guys and they punch each other. In the LCG, it's a little bit better, but even there, it's just sort of like you're lining up a bunch of guys and then they punch each other in a line rather than only one or two. Whereas in the game, in the CCG, you're actually fighting in specific spots, and I mean, and you can have multiple locations out on the board, so you can be having simultaneous battles on Tatooine and Dagobah, and I don't know, and you can sort of tell these stories too, I think, which is sort of fun, where you have just one time I had a Jawa hauling an Ewok around in Luke's backpack, and they used sandstorms to take out stormtroopers. It was an entertaining deck to play.
Like a wizard Jawa that has like the power of earthbending sand. It sounds really cool.
That would be cool. So let's, for a moment, so that people can get an idea of what at least you and I are envisioning, and hopefully Joe, have you gotten to experience the CCG at all yet?
I own the starter on my shelf.
Okay.
Heavily used.
The 2-player starter?
Yes.
Okay.
I looked in the box. It has some, what game was that I have the unopened boosters for? Jedi something? Not CCG.
Jedi Knight?
Jedi, or was it Young Jedi?
Young Jedi?
It's either Young Jedi
it's
or
not Young Jedi.
Young Jedi
Knights,
is
because I remember.
Okay.
I have two starters for Young Jedi, but that I have, they're still in the shrink wrap. Okay. So my exposure to the CCG is I have the 2-player starter.
Uh-huh.
I've looked at it, I've held it, And I played an intro game with Leo over Tabletop Simulator years ago.
Okay.
And I've heard Leo talk about it a lot.
Well, we all have. So as we're talking about iconic locations and characters and space battles and ground battles, what does the board look like? If we're in like turn 3, turn 4 of a game, what does the table look like?
So you lay out locations sort of in the center of the board, in between both players. So it's just like a line of locations, and you'll separate them out by like systems. So like all your Tatooine locations are over here, and all your Hoth locations are over here, or whatever. And then you can have star systems scattered about there too, and then at the locations you'll deploy your characters on your side of the table at those locations. Visually, I think it creates a compelling look.
That's one of the things I really, really like about Doomtown Reloaded is it's a very geographical game where you're maneuvering your cowboys around town. Oh, this guy's going to go to the saloon, and I move the card to the saloon card, and that guy's going to go to the town square, and I move that card to the middle of the board. Sounds like that, where you're like, okay, I'm going to send Luke to Tatooine, so I'm just going to go put his card over here on Tatooine. So you have like a... you kind of see the spatial relationships.
Yeah. I mean, and you can do stuff like okay, so say Luke starts out on you deploy him on Tatooine, and he starts out there, but then your opponent is doing some shit over on Hoth or whatever, and you want to get Luke over there. Well, you can. There's different ways you can do it. Like you can deploy an X-wing down to Tatooine, also have Luke hop in it. Then have him take off to space and then hyperspace over to Hoth and land down. And it's, I don't know. I just really love all that aspect where things are less abstract.
Right.
Like with the LCG,
you're never anywhere. Yeah. You're either in a fight or not in a fight, but you're not. They're never like.
And even and everything you're doing is very like abstracted out.
Whereas
like I think the CCG feels a little bit more like a board game almost.
Right. If you're gonna I'm not actually looking at the notes. Get to this, then we can get to it. But my question is, how is because that's another thing that we don't like about the LCGs. It's a bit more abstract and kind of high-minded. How does combat work in... Because I remember... I don't remember how it works, but I do remember the one time we played, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty neat, the way the combat works in the game.
Yeah.
Re-explain that.
So if you start a battle at a location where you both have characters at, basically every character at that location has a power rating. And you just add up all your power ratings at your location, compare your total to your opponent's total. Whoever has the most wins the battle, right?
Okay.
And the loser then has to lose the difference between the two totals, has to lose that much force, and which means you have to discard cards from your hand or from your deck, essentially. And your deck is your life total.
So there's no going through the deck. Once it's out, it's out. Once you're done, once you get through your deck, you lose?
Once you've lost cards from your deck.
I think this might be a good time to explain the life cycle.
The flow of the Force,
yes,
as it's known. Yes. So you've got your deck, okay? That your 60 card deck is your life force, okay? At the beginning of each turn, you're going to activate force, which is how you will pay for deploying cards and things like that, and starting battles and whatnot. And it's you just take cards from the top of your deck and you put them into your force pile. stuff from your force pile that you spend goes into your used pile, and then at the end of your deck or at the end of your turn goes back on the bottom of your deck. So in that sense, you're cycling through your whole deck all the time. But some things like battles, there's something called force drain, and also just certain cards and stuff in the game can cause you to lose force, which is a whole nother pile that you discard stuff to. For the most part, once it's lost, it's like out of the game.
Okay.
And
so it's essentially the discard pile and then the dead pile.
Yeah, kind of. So, and then once all your cards are gone, game's over. You lose.
So in a certain way, from one perspective, modern day deck building games where you pay to buy new cards, but your currency are the cards in your hand. Themselves. Yes.
Sort of, but I would say the whole rifling through your whole deck multiple times throughout the game is very similar, but beyond that, I don't know that there's a ton of comparison to deck builders, really.
Just because most card games these days either have a very specific currency card, like Magic the Gathering has mana cards, land cards, or they have cards that generate currency.
Generate tokens.
To spend. Right.
Yeah, no, it's a bit different than most other games I've played. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's not the only game out there that's used your deck to basically represent your life, but it's one of the few I've played, and I like it's a bit different. But going back to battles, now beyond that, there is a few other things that can influence how the battle goes. If you like I said, characters all have a power rating. They also have an ability rating, which kind of represents how strong they are in the Force. If you have at least a total ability at the location of 4 or more, if I remember right, you get to draw what's called a Battle Destiny, which just you draw a card off your deck, and every card has a destiny number on it. And then you get to add that to your power. So potentially, even if you have a lower power but a higher ability, the Force can kind of swing the battle in your favor. And then that can cause additional loss of force and stuff like that for your opponent. You can also have weapons deployed on your characters, like lightsabers and blasters and such, that can be fired during battles and cause characters to be hit and then lost from the battle.
So, like, before you compare your power numbers, you're like, I'm going to use this blaster. Now you're exploded.
It actually them being hit and getting lost happens after that. But
okay.
But they won't be there for future battles.
That's neat.
Suffice to say, it's an extremely minutia-driven card game.
Yeah, I will say that. They are certainly trying very hard to capture the theme of Star Wars. And I think they do succeed 100% at that. I mean, if you really want to feel like you are in playing Star Wars, I don't think there's a better game for it. I mean, short of maybe actually doing like a role-playing game. I mean, Legion
that's a bold claim.
Kind of capture too, but what?
So that is a bold claim.
I'm gonna stick with it though.
Well, he is.
But the flip side of this is by the end of the game, they had so many rules to capture so much of these different elements of the movies that, I mean, the full advanced rule book is huge. Like, I printed out the PDF of it one time, and it's like that thick.
He made about
an inch thick. Like I said, they've got all these moves, all these rules for moving your characters around, for firing blasters, for using lightsabers, for for landing and taking off your starships, for docking your starfighters into capital ships, for riding around in vehicles, for shuttling other passengers around in vehicles, for using tractor beams to capture ships, for using bounty hunters to capture people, for putting the whole game on pause and playing a hand of sabacc sometimes. There's rules for that in the game.
I feel like there's a rule for like walking between Han and Leia as they have an argument.
There is rules for
Jedi training.
There is Jedi training. There's Jedi trials you can do with so you can train up Luke.
Setting up your Hoth markers.
Yes, there's specific rules for deploying locations on Hoth and putting out the shield generator. And if you have the shield generator out, then dark side characters cannot deploy inside the shield. They have to deploy outside the shield and march in towards Echo Base.
This sounds like a game you almost need like a GM for, like a third player who's not actually like on either side.
That would have helped me a lot.
Yeah, I mean there is rules. There's even rules for when you get for holding votes on in the Senate. There's pod racing rules. There,
taxation.
Yeah. So I mean it's definitely a dense game rules wise. Now
if you get all of it.
Yes. What'd you say?
If you have like all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that being said, there is a lot of stuff that doesn't see much play. In like the more like competitive things out there.
That's fair to say.
I mean, sadly, like weapons, like firing blasters and stuff. Blasters are really cool, but like they don't see a ton of play. Just because it actually makes your deck less efficient to have all these blaster cards in there. Now, Decipher, partway through the game's about like halfway through the game's life cycle, started releasing versions of characters with blasters and lightsabers just built right into the character card. Those are a different story. You know, people use those a lot.
Luke with lightsaber.
Yep. So there would be like, Luke with lightsaber, Boba Fett with...
Can you explain? I remember seeing a card called Leia's Back with a picture of her back. What? Just explain that card to me.
Basically, it lets you pull her out of your lost pile and put her back into play, if I remember right. I don't remember the exact wording on the card. It might also let you search your deck for her and just pull her out.
So like you're seeing her from behind and going, hey, is that Leia? I want to grab her.
Yeah, but so she's also there's a whole back because they were big on humor.
There's a whole series of cards there's hands, there's Leia's back, there's Luke's back, Han's back. There's also Return of a Jedi, which does like the same thing basically. Decipher liked to make really dumb jokes in their card. They
all had to be dads because it was 100% dad jokes.
But I mean, that just made me love the game even more. Like,
yes,
like that's one thing. I mean, you even go back to like early Magic. I felt like old Magic had a way better had an actual sense of humor, and nowadays they seem like it's more like no, humor is only allowed in the unsets. Everywhere else is serious business.
Yeah,
for the most part. I mean, they still do some stuff sometimes, but not like they used to.
Well, and a book that I think is extremely relevant to this conversation is Tales from Jabba's Palace, because it's that same kind of finding background characters and background details that simultaneously add to the universe and are kind of dumb and ridiculous, but they're funny and maybe they're clever, but they add to the collective I get the joke that we can share, and the lore text on the cards very often exemplified that.
I saw that one time. Wasn't there essentially an inside joke where the flavor text on this one card was something dumb, and then the flavor text on the same character's son was also like just a reference to the previous card's flavor text?
Yeah. It was basically like it was like this one smuggler, and it says like he's a smuggler and he's an idiot. And then in like Jabba's palace, they had a card of his son, and it was all like the son of blah blah blah. He's also an idiot. You know? And then they just did I don't know. There's just lots of little stuff like that, and the Decipher game was also responsible for just honestly, it created a ton of lore too, that for stuff that at the time didn't exist. Like a lot of these TIE pilots that you get in X-Wing, Howl Runner, and a lot of those, their names the first time they appeared, to my knowledge, was in the lore text on their cards for the Star Wars CCG. You know, like the actual character's name is like DS37-1 or something like that. Like they just had like a number, like TK241 or whatever. But then the lore text said like, DS31 was the piloted black one and was known as Howl Runner, or whatever.
The other thing about kind of the charm of the game that I've noticed is it doesn't have art. It has pictures.
Yeah.
Photographs, we should say, or movie stills, but also didn't they because not everything in the game appeared on screen, so they had to make pictures of things that didn't exist?
For some stuff, a lot of it does come from the screen. I mean, some of it is they had to do a lot of cleanup and stuff after the fact, but
in the days before Photoshop.
Yeah, they were given a prints of the films to take images from and stuff. But they did do some stuff, and that is one area I think where they kind of failed a little bit, is a lot of the ones they made in-house. It's a little jarring, and you can really tell that it's not the same.
The Jodo cast card.
That's
or
one
Mara
of them, but
Jade.
I think that one turned out all right. The Mara Jade one was, is better than most. I'm thinking sort of what's the one? It's like Talon Card. And
Cornhorn, where it's the authors
sitting together at a table, and it just looks
but it's the
really
authors.
hokey.
It's a joke.
I know.
Is there a Kyle Katarn one?
No,
I don't think there was.
No,
is there a Thrawn one?
Yeah,
there is. Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah,
it's not great.
It's not.
But it is fair
I'm
to
thinking
say
sort of more. There's some of the ones that they did for some, just I don't know. It's maybe they weren't able to pull enough background characters to fulfill their limit of commons for this one for some sets, and so they just dressed guys up in a Star Wars looking outfit and snapped a photo of them in front of a green screen, and then just photoshopped them into with Jabba's palace in the background or something like that.
Really?
And it's really obvious on those cards that that's what they did, and they don't look great.
I want to see those ones. You have to find an example and post it somewhere.
But, like, if we just look at the original premiere, that was what the original core set was called, Star Wars CCG premiere set.
Is that not what I have?
What do you have?
Yeah, that was.
I don't know.
Yes,
Let me go look at the shelf.
Oh, the two-player.
The starter box was from Premiere.
Yeah, let's take a second. Pet the kitty, because that's what you got to do. Let's grab that box. Let's show it to the patrons.
It is the premier introductory two-player game.
That's what I said.
Alrighty.
You walked away. You'd taken off your headset already.
So that is the first version, premiere. No, we're not talking about that game. So for those listening, Joe flashed a couple of boosters from the third Star Wars card game.
Day one, first day of printing sticker on there. That's got to be worth an extra 2 cents.
Boy, you would think so. Anyways, we'll talk about Jedi Knight some other day after we talk about Young Jedi.
Knights.
But today,
With an S.
With an S.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's very fair to say, in my opinion, that the images that they used for Premiere and the first several sets, like, today, we would think of them as, like, 4K screen caps, but, at the time, they were high def. They were extremely good.
Yeah, well, like I said,
caps.
I mean, they had prints of the film or whatever that they were scanning directly, that they received from Lucasfilm. They did still, even in the premiere set there, they did make some of their own stuff, like the TIE Scout and the TIE. There's one other TIE that's, I think, that's in the premiere set that's both were like sort of like CG alters of a regular TIE fighter that they created for the game.
Like the equipment cards. Like if you just wanted a picture of a blaster, you didn't necessarily have that from the films. So they might like have a blaster sitting on a table, and that was the picture of the whatever DL insert number blaster.
I have a question. Yeah. I am looking at a card called Timer Mine. The artwork has
hold it up.
Some garbage next to some stormtroopers' feet.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah.
And there's also a card called Timer Mine that looks like all the text is identical, but it has a green background, and
that's the dark side version.
Oh, so the dark side don't get stormtrooper feet.
Look at the backside of the two cards.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
Yep.
It's all clear now.
Yep, light side cards have a rebellion symbol, and dark side have the imperial symbol on them.
And the rebellion cards are kind of dirty and unkept, and the imperial backs are very nicely kept.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's another thing I do like about the game is its graphical design. I think is a bit timeless.
Yes, definitely.
It doesn't look really aged like a lot of games from this era do.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
And I think part of that is the like the frames, the card frames that they did were not like just some computer generated graphics or something like that they used for the borders. Mm-hmm. Those frames they had actual metal frames made, and they took a picture of the frame, and that is, I mean, and then they digitally added some color to them and stuff, obviously, but that's how they made the frames. Is they actually had someone fabricate those out of metal.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I'd heard that before, but it's
probably
still...
from me.
Probably. But, it's still, every time that I go a while without thinking about that. And then you remind me that, yeah, they actually made real, actual picture frames, essentially, and took a picture of that and used that as the frame for the cards. That's not a thing that every company would do, especially today.
Yeah. But like I said, I think that really helps contribute to the...
Yeah, I think the card
cards
design
not
is...
looking so aged. And I think that they really did a good job selecting images and cleaning them up and making them look nice for the cards too. Because that's another thing, is a lot of games that use... screen caps and stills from shows and movies for their images. I think it tends to make them look cheaper, I guess, like they just don't...
A lot of Harry Potter games are like that.
Yeah. And like same thing, like when Fantasy Flight made like their slightly dumbed down version of the Game of Thrones card game.
That's just what I was thinking of.
With stills from the show and stuff, and you're like, man, why would you take this game that has all this amazing art? I mean, I get why they did it, because then they tried to sell the game in like big box retailers and stuff like that, but I don't think it ever did well.
No.
I have found 4 cards that stood out to me looking through the light side deck in the starter box. This card is called the Bith Shuffle, which I like. It's a picture of the band, and it just lets you shuffle another player's deck.
Put it up.
And I guess I never knew this. It says when Luke arrived, they were playing one of their favorite songs. Mad About Me is the name of the song. I didn't know that was the name of the Cantina song, was Mad About Me. The Bith Shuffle.
You learned something. TIL.
The next card is just called Blaster. I just thought this looks like an illustration. This is another blaster rifle card that also looks like an illustration, but it's clearly just a DL44.
Oh yeah, with
like the barrel sawed off a bit, and then like a squiggly telephone cable on top. And I thought it was kind of a neat design.
I feel like
this Luke card I thought was interesting.
This could be an episode, just going through cards and talking about them.
It could be.
I would make that show.
I would join you. This card, just the flavor text on the Luke card says he was nicknamed Wormy by his childhood friends, Cammy and Fixer.
This one is just Luke, right? Just Luke?
It's him playing with his toy airplane, this Skyhopper.
Yeah, that's the cheapo version that came in the 2-player set.
Right. I just thought it was interesting that they talk about Wormy as his nickname in what did you guys say, 93?
95.
Like
95.
Yeah, who knew about that without YouTube?
Yeah,
anybody who read the novelization.
I guess. Okay.
Yeah,
and then I just I feel like they had fun picking the still for the Run Luke Run card, because it's a screen grab of Luke shooting his blaster rifle on the Death Star with his dumb face. If you take a screen, you can hit pause any number of times to find dumb faces.
Yeah.
Anyways, those are the ones that stood out to me.
Yeah, they the Star Wars novelization is also how people knew that Vader's was all damaged because of lava, because they mentioned that's but I think the novelization makes it sound more like it was just like a pit of lava that Obi-Wan threw him into or something.
I think that's what I remember knowing in my head as a child. The novelization also says that Obi-Wan and Owen are brothers or something.
Yeah. Yep.
Missed opportunity. But yeah, they continue with doing a lot of
Obi-Wan did call Anakin his brother. So, and Owen would be Anakin's
brother,
step-brother-in-law.
So Owen is Obi-Wan's step brother-in-law or step-brother-in-law,
step foster brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
So,
it's George knew what he was doing.
So do you think there were ever times, this is a huge aside, but I can imagine Obi-Wan like coming over to the Lars and just be like, so would you like to talk about things?
Like, nope.
And like,
you know what?
Get out of here.
I regretfully do not know as much about the adoption process as I would like to, but I feel like if you adopt an infant child, you would probably just have them take your last name. Was that part of the thing? Owen hands the baby to Brew and he's like, his name's Luke Skywalker. That's the condition. If I ever hear him going by another name, I'm going to come back. I'm going to take him away. Otherwise, you'll never see him.
Maybe Owen was like, his dad was freaky. And I do not want to give this kid my name. He has to keep his dad's name.
Aww.
Then you got Bail Organa.
Maybe they were just like,
you know what?
Luke, yeah. Yeah, I guess, when they didn't give him that stipulation.
Yeah, but also, like, having the daughter of a senator be named Skywalker, that hangs around with, like, clearly hangs
in
around
the Senate.
with, like, the Emperor and Vader. Well, doesn't hang around with them, but they know who he is. That might be a little bit more suspicious. They'd be like,
maybe.
Anyways, why does your daughter have that name?
There's a card called Son of Skywalker, but we'll get into that later.
How many cards in modern Fantasy Flight games are references to this game? Or is the phrase Son of Skywalker just kind of... it's obviously...
Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
It's
the Emperor says it. But also it's like... Sometimes it feels maybe like there was a card called that, so if we call a card that...
there's some stuff like I know there's an R2 character or a card in this. It's not that's called like Hero of 1,000 Devices or something. I think like that
was an R2 card in the LCG. No, that's R2 in the LCG.
Okay.
Also, I think that's
subtitle or something.
I think that's R2 subtitle in Legion.
Yeah, and like I said, most of a lot of these named Imperial pilots all got their names from this game. I believe the Talon roll, came. I know it's a card in the game. I can't remember it being a reference before this game, but I could be wrong.
So at the very least, it was sort of at the tail end of the era where extra sources could be creative and supplemental in a semi-canonical sense to greater Star Wars. With the West End Games RPG.
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't really until... I think Star Wars gaming back then is responsible for more than a lot of people realize at least for the old canon. I mean, and a lot of stuff from that still is carried over.
Yeah, it's coming back little by little. I feel
like between this game and the West End Games RPG, they created so much of just what we knew as Star Wars that it's crazy. And what was I going to say? I forget.
Well, if you can't recall, you'll think of what you were going to say. But for me, having come into this game from the Star Trek Next Generation CCG, which was very, very similar in a lot of ways, that's 7 seasons, 25 episodes a season. So that's, I don't know how many hours of footage for them to pull teeny little extra characters from to make up the commons. And then with the first set of this game just being episode 4, they did a pretty bang-up job of filling out commons, uncommons, and rares for a 365 card set. So, I mean, they they filled out a game that needed to be a certain size when they only had like 2 hours of material to work with. So, I mean, just the production side alone on this game is kind of amazing. Games today, whether we're talking about Destiny, the LCG, X-Wing, RPG, Legion, I mean, they've got untold more hours of material to pull from. And they're honestly only scratching the surface at this point. Mm-hmm. We've only got so many characters in Legion. X-Wing is doing a pretty darn good job of, you know, fracking from every source they can find. But yeah, like, just the job that production team did. I keep going back to the premiere set, because it was such a landmark set. By the time we get to subsequent sets, it's like, well, what are they going to do this time? Like, Dagobah was obvious, Cloud City was an obvious one, Jabba's Palace, Endor, Death Star 2. Then you get to, like, Special Edition, and was it Premiere 2, and Reflections, and...
So, yeah, no, there were special editions that they had that, well, like, it sounds like was for stuff from the special editions.
From 97.
Yeah, and I think special editions is actually where they did a lot of that weird, like, we're just going to take some pictures of guys, you know. And I think it's, and then in some of the other sets, they had 3 different reflections sets that were kind of reprintings of older cards, like as foils and things like that. Or they did like some special cards where they had, sometimes they would have like 2 cards that were really common. They did a weird thing where they like combined 2 cards into one, and then you could play it as either one or the other. I believe that they released a bunch of those in like Reflections 2 or something like that. I forget exactly.
Long before MTG did that.
Yeah. But it was also like, it wasn't like, not like Magic where it was like 2 already existing or 2 new cards. It was like 2 cards from previous sets that just people used a lot, and they were like, we'll just put them together into one, and then people could make their decks even more efficient by...
It was a wild time.
Yeah. Sadly, things at Decipher at the end didn't go so well. Like, they had a lot of embezzling going on.
This is 1999 is when it died?
I forget. It was 2000 or 2001, I believe.
Well,
when they lost the license.
Yeah, they lost the license for Star Wars in
December 2001. Yep, okay. Is when they lost the Star Wars license.
Because it was in between Episode 1 and Episode 2. But it was about that time, I think, that they launched Star Trek 2nd Edition CCG. And they were still in the midst of the Lord of the Rings movie licensed CCG had just come out. So they weren't floundering with the loss of Star Wars. It was just a big blow to lose such a popular, not just IP, but a popular game.
Lose it so much as chose not to renew the license, right?
I
don't know. Wizards moved
no,
very
I don't think
quickly.
it was. I don't think it was that they chose.
No, that was Wizards. Wizards chose not to renew it in 2010
in
or
2010.
Whatever.
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, I was gonna say everything I've read is that they lost the license because, and I'm sure it was partly because, everything they put out subsequently after they tried to make a Young Jedi Knights card game based solely on just episode 1 stuff, and it was not very good.
No.
They tried to, then after that they tried to make a Jedi Knights, and this was just like awful. Like,
let's see those packs again.
They didn't in there.
before.
They didn't use movie stills. It's all computer generated stuff.
Yeah, they made
It's
a big
all
deal about
really,
that too.
Really ugly because this was in what, like 2000 when
2000.
they were developing this.
Yeah.
So, because this came out like right at the end of their license. Like Jedi Knight did not last for very long.
Knights.
So yeah, I'm sure that was part of the reason why they lost it, and I wouldn't, and just traditionally, like Lucasfilm has kind of had a relationship with Hasbro and stuff anyway. So
Yeah, that was about.
I don't know. Did Hasbro own WotC yet at that point? I don't remember.
That was so. Okay, bracket this conversation around 99 to 01 is when Hasbro bought WotC, WotC bought TSR, and WotC got the license for Star Wars. So a lot happened in 99 to 01 because they released the first edition of D20 Star Wars for episode 1. So it was like 2000 that they released the first edition of D20 Star Wars. And not long after that, we had the card game that started.
And I feel like we could fill a whole episode with just the history of who had the Star Wars license and what did they do
my
with
gosh,
it.
yes, absolutely.
Now one kind of neat thing though that did come of this is Decipher did try to keep things going, where they in like a couple of years later, like around 2004 or so, they released a game called just Wars, not Star Wars, just Wars, that used the exact same system as the Star Wars CCG, but it was their own new original IP, and it was fine. It was still just as fun to play as the Star Wars CCG, but by that point, the CCG super hyper market had cooled, and it didn't have the Star Wars IP to bring people in. So I think it didn't last long. I think they only published it for about a year and then it died. But they tried to make the IP a thing. Like they actually got Michael Stackpole to write some fiction for their universe and stuff. I've never read any of it, so I don't know if it's any good. But
I have a closing question, unless there's more to discuss. It's been going on for about an hour and a half.
Probably not. I think we are getting into the end of times for the Star Wars CCG, just in the broad strokes.
Yeah. My question is, little Billy over there who's freaked out on the game, do you think it would be remotely possible for somebody listening and going, golly, I wish I'd played that back in the day? This, I hear now, is the best Star Wars tabletop game of all time. I have none of it. How possible do you think it would be to actually get into it nowadays in 2020? Because it sounds like
we got a patron joining us.
You know what? You can find people offloading their collections for this game fairly frequently, if you want. There are, and you know what? I've actually gotten a ton of cards just from people I know who've donated them to me, who are like, hey, I guess I've got a stack of this card game sitting around in my basement. I'm not doing anything with it. Do you want them? And I'm like, hells yes. And most of the time, it's all just stuff from that first set, and that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm okay with. I think when I counted them up, I've got over 80 stormtroopers, so I could make damn near 2 decks of just stormtroopers.
Would that work out well?
It would not, but you could do it.
What if somebody had a deck of 80 rebel troopers?
Well,
your mana
you can only do
would
60
be
cards.
Great.
So. And you have to have at least one location in your deck.
Okay.
So maximum would be 59 Stormtroopers in a deck.
Okay, versus 59 Rebel Troopers. Who wins?
If I remember right, the two cards are basically identical, so...
Yeah.
So that could be a way to an alternative to a coin toss. Hold on, let's bust out the 50-50 randomization game. It will take about 40 minutes to figure out.
So we do have a patron joining us, the Beard 1808 in chat. Thanks for joining us. They have a question. Should I open the one pack I have from the Premier Starter Set? He does have the one. Should he go ahead and pop it, or should he, maybe join us on stream at some point?
Yeah.
And crack a pack?
So the thing is...
Hey-oh, Meat Castle joining us in chat.
The packs from that set, like an individual booster pack, I don't think sells for a ton. I think they sell for around $5 or $6. So not a lot. And also most of the cards that anybody is going to want from that set are extremely rare. The first couple sets had levels of rarity beyond just they didn't just go common, uncommon, and rare. They had commons. They had and then they had uncommon they had uncommon 1 and uncommon 2, and then for rares they had rare 1 and rare 2, and rare 2 cards were even rarer than a regular rare. And basically all the cards that anybody would ever want, that everybody really wanted, like Luke and Vader and Han and Obi-Wan and all those main characters.
Everyone I never had.
Yeah, we're all rare too, and pretty hard to find. That is one of my complaints about the first couple sets, is it was really hard to get characters. In fact, Son of Skywalker, that was in the Dagobah set.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first named character I actually pulled from a pack.
Yo.
Other than you got the cheapo versions of Luke and Vader in the 2-player starter set. They're your generic great value brand Luke and Vader.
Costco Luke.
Yeah. Kirkland
brand.
Luke and Vader.
Yeah.
So to be honest, your odds of pulling anything worth any money out of the pack are very small. So I guess it's kind of up to you. If you just want to have some cards to collect and keep, I would say open it. Go ahead. But I guess if you're looking at it from a value standpoint, the pack is probably going to be worth a lot more still sealed than it ever will be opened. I mean,
unless you get that one card.
There's always that chance that you pull a Vader or something like that.
It's true.
But it's a really small chance that's ever going to happen.
Like that fake Pokemon premiere box.
Yeah. Only these cards are real. He's just probably not going to pull anything worth having out of it. But back to your question then, Joe. If you do want to collect, there's also on the Players Committee website, which is, I think it's just StarWarsCCG.com, I think if I remember right, is the name of the site. But if you search for Star Wars Players Committee, you should find it too. They do have resources for people, they collect cards for the purposes of distributing to players, people who want to get in the game and stuff like that. So they have resources to help people. And
it's a nonprofit.
And eBay and stuff like that have there's you can find stuff out there if you really want to. And the other fact is, it is a dead game, so printing copies is an option.
Well, and yeah, that's something that is done, like we've seen, like you've talked about with this continuing player committee, is that they make their own and they print their own.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and like
it's all
they
kind
sort
of
of get
fair
around some of the
game.
rules. Like technically, like all those virtual cards you print are supposed to go over top of existing cards and replace those. Like you're not supposed to be printing just the virtual card. I'm sure lots of people do it though. So I mean, I don't know. That's an option too. I'm not gonna wholeheartedly endorse that one, but
or you ask someone who still has another box full of old Decipher Star Wars cards that they don't really want, taking up space on a shelf that could be occupied by more miniatures. And maybe they'll send you the box.
Yeah. If the beard asks me really nicely, maybe I will give him like
A stormtrooper.
a stormtrooper. I'll drop down from 80 down to 79 stormtroopers just for him.
Okay, so in conclusion, people certainly remember this game to be amazing. I remember it being extremely Star Wars in the early to mid 90s, and I was never good at it. So, like, I don't love this game, but I remember going to our local game store and buying a whole bunch of packs and cracking them with friends and being really disappointed. And you know what? That's what a CCG is all about. Just like
True
buying
story,
a box of Destiny and being really disappointed.
A box
Star
of
Wars
any.
CCG turned
The
me
best-
into a criminal.
The best blind bag experience out there, in my opinion, is the individual Lego minifigures, because you can feel the bag, and if you understand the shapes of the characters, you can feel so you'll always get what you want as long as you feel enough of the bags. You stand there in Target just
grab
feeling
enough sacks, you'll get what you want.
right. You stand there in Target, feeling all these sacks, and people walk by and they're like, "What the fuck is he doing?"
Now, I used to do the same thing for a while there, but with like these little like Mario blind bag things, because for a while there, my one kid was crazy about that. But he was always like, we didn't want to like buy him and be like, oh look, it's another Koopa Troopa or whatever. So me and my wife would be like at Target grabbing all the bags in the box and squeezing them, trying to see if we could feel. It actually was much easier for a while there. They used to print codes on there, and you could look the code up online and just find out exactly what was in the bag. But they stopped doing that after a while, so you had to sit there and squeeze all the bags to find out. What was
I heard that the Lego ones are thinking about putting something in the package to make it so you can't feel the pieces, and at that point, it's done. Not worth it. But I'm very glad they don't have the ability to do that with Star Wars.
They're just filled with
because they're like $5 a piece. We've been getting the Harry Potter ones, and every once in a while, the regular, like, generic Lego stuff, I go, oh, there's a cowboy. Oh, there's a guy in a banana suit. I want that. I got the guy in the panda suit, then you can swap out with, like, Thrawn. No, there's, like, you can have little Lego Thrawn, but in a panda suit.
There you go.
Grumpy about it. It's great.
Panda Thrawn. I think, especially given the circumstances that we find ourselves in, we may perhaps try to enable some CCG fun on Twitch. Maybe one of these days. I'm not in charge of the Twitch. I'm not in charge of the CCG-ness. So I'm going to leave that up to the other two gentlemen involved here. But if you're curious, or you grew up loving it, this is definitely going to be something to keep your eyes on. And I don't know if we have much else to say about this. Any last comments?
That's all I have to say about that.
How do you play it digital? Asks patron Meat Castle in chat. I've always wanted to play it, but never did.
So there is actually a digital version of the game that's supported by the Players Committee called GEMP, GEMP. And if you go to the Players Committee website. You can find links to download and run that. And I mean, that's especially the player base on there has actually jumped up quite a bit over the last few months, thanks to quarantine. I seem to remember seeing a tweet or from the Players Committee showing that they now hit a high of like 7,000 concurrent players or like registered players or something like that.
That's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is
is it its own program you download?
Yeah, yeah. It's a web thing. I forget. I looked at it, and to be honest, it's pretty fiddly, and I never really was able quite to figure it out. There's a few YouTube videos out there that are supposed to teach you, and they didn't really help me much. So if you can decipher GEMP, that's the same videos I watched Meat Castle. They didn't help me.
He said Decipher. That's why we were excited.
Yeah. There is also so those are also it does have low resolution scans of all the cards and stuff, because for just like copyright reasons they're not allowed to use high resolution scans of any of the cards, which is unfortunate. There is also there's a couple of tabletop simulator modules out there. I've messed around with those too. Again, they're not great. GEMP is nice because it does actually have like a lot of the rules and stuff programmed into it, so it does automate some of the stuff in the game. Whereas like if you're playing like on Tabletop Simulator or anything, it's mostly just it's a deck of cards that you're playing, right, and you have to play the game just as if you were actually playing it. So if you don't know the rules or anything like that, Tabletop Simulator is not going to help you, whereas GEMP kind of helps walk you through some stuff. The other disadvantage of GEMP is there are some cards that do really weird things in this game.
Yes.
And so because of that, not all of the cards are actually in GEMP, because they have not yet figured out how to program the game to do the things the card is supposed to do. There's not a ton of them, but there are a few out there.
What are they? Would like throw this card across the room and then like see how much dust it collects?
It's the chaos orb.
They're basically not cards anybody wants to play anyway.
That's fair. Okay. So without more tangents, even though that's what we do, we may be trying to have more CCG content on here. As I said, especially
it is the game's 25th anniversary, after all.
Well, there you go. Well, you said
25th.
You said,
yes,
25th.
Okay. Sorry,
you said it was December, so we can still do a countdown to December of this year for the 25th anniversary. My gosh, I'm old. So stay tuned to the same bat time, varying bat channels. Wait, no, other way around. Anyways, stay tuned to us for more CCG stuff, because I'm sure as long as we put that out there for Leo to do, he'll do it, by golly. And maybe we'll be there to, go, ooh, look at that. And with that, because I just checked how long we've been recording, my gosh, we're gonna cut this one off, unless there's anything else that needs to be said. But I hope not, because I'm going to stop this now, and you can't stop me. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Bye-bye.